Welcome to the Glens Common Council meeting. It's Tuesday, October 10th, 2023, 7:30, and it's time for our regular session. We begin the evening opening with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilwoman Palmer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So now we begin our regular Common Council session with public comments. If you would like to comment in front of the Common Council, we'd like you to come up, give us your name and address for the record, and we ask everybody to limit it to 3 minutes if they can, so that we can still have a council meeting. Great. So, anybody like to present to the Common Council? Yes, hi Nancy, come on up.
Hello, everybody. Nancy Turner, 153 Bay Street, and I'm just here to extend my thanks again to all of you for everything that you do for the Glens Falls Collaborative. We have 2 events this month. We have our haunted house competition going on right now. There's 18 houses involved in it, and you may want to take a little drive down Sanford. Have you seen it? And see the firehouse that has made national news programs. So, yeah, we're thinking the streets might be a little busy on Friday. That street, Sanford, will be busy on Friday and Saturday. Yeah. Then on the 28th of October is Booty You. So come on down. If you've never been to that event, you need to come down and see all these kids out collecting candy. This year all the businesses are providing their own and they're setting up tables, so it'll be a really fun time down on Glen Street. And then I just want to take a moment just to say to you, I see a lot of my friends and neighbors here sitting, and just to, you know, I had been invited to the Complete Streets workshop in August, and I did go, and so I have a pretty good understanding of what a complete street is. And, you know, we have to make sure that our streets are safe for all mobile devices, not just cars or bikes, but also strollers, wheelchairs, pedestrians. So, you know, as you, I know it's on the agenda tonight to vote on that, so let's just keep that in mind as you vote. You know, we're looking to protect everybody in our community. So I hope the votes reflect the best thing for the city and the best for the community.
Thanks.
Thanks.
John Fair, 17 Webster Avenue. I have a petition, and I don't know what when I'm supposed to present this to the Common Council now, or do we give it to you now?
Sure.
Start with Jim.
Sure.
It's about
Do you
the.
make copies, or is there enough for all of us, or just one?
Well, I tell you the truth, Jim, I was thinking about copies, and then I was figured that somebody could be an argument. Did you get it stamped that it's a certified copy and da-da-da-da? So
Just give me the petition.
you get the idea.
You know, just give me the petition.
Excuse me?
You know as well.
Okay. You want the folder? Thanks, Jim.
Do you want to say what the petition is? Or do you want me to?
Well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with it.
Yeah, no, so Mr. Fair presented the council with, it's labeled the Pavement Preservation Project for Webster Avenue, Glens Falls, New York. Petition for no dedicated bike lanes on Webster Avenue, Glens Falls, New York.
73, Jim.
73?
Yep.
Okay. Well, I'm taking his word for it. There's 73 signatures.
Thank you.
John for making the effort to show that place.
Yeah, please.
Joseph Wagner, 31 Webster Avenue.
Thank you.
I want to thank John for making the effort and to show that we're all pretty much unanimous on this feeling. I'm not going to work on that subject. When we started to walk down the street and look around, I realized that when the tree comes down in front of my house, right now it covers this new LED light that's out there, which is a nice improvement over the old light. The problem is going to be it's already existing problem, but I'm going to really suffer from this winter, and we're all going to have it permanently because those trees are not going to grow tall enough in my lifetime, is that we can't block those lights. The LED lights are not shrouded. So you shoot the light out like this and down, and if they're shrouded, they have in other cities that I've lived in, you can call up and they'll put a shroud on it. I don't know what the deal is here, I'd like to find out. It would beam the light down on the street and not into our homes, which helps, it hurts just a lot because we've got to put blackout shades in front of the house when those lights are out there. And it's not something that's adding to our quality of life. So, Ben, you work with the lighting committee or something like that? Are you involved in that?
It was the sustainability committee was doing something to get those lights in place because they're LEDs.
Yeah.
But I believe now you would just report a concern on the website.
Okay.
And we can change the intensity of those lights.
Okay.
We have a 5-year contract for maintenance.
Okay.
So just report the concern or send me an email.
Sure.
And I'll get it to the right person.
Thanks.
No problem.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Jim, excuse me, I wasn't the one that took the petition around. Joe over there helped. So,
Joe McLeod, 68 Webster Avenue. How's everybody tonight? John's the one who started the petition. We broke it up. He took care of the west end of Webster. Renee Murphy did the middle section. I did the east end. Everybody that I contacted in my end was against dedicated bike lanes. I know Renee Murphy did the middle section. Everybody there was against dedicated bike section. And John, what about your end? Was everybody against it?
yes.
So it was unanimous. The people have spoken on Webster Avenue, and I just hope you guys take it into consideration tonight and make your vote. Thank you.
So the city attorney and I were talking before the meeting about the procedure for doing this. So from our understanding, we should be, if we're making a change to the code to disallow parking on either direction, we need to have that as a separate item, and those need to be voted on separately. So I would like to just pull the resolution until next session, until we can address those. We can't have an either or resolution either.
Right, so it's the first aspect then would be that when I set this up under new business, I made a mistake in thinking that the council, that because it was on the council agenda, that it wouldn't count as a from the floor vote, but my procedural knowledge is limited, so the best thing to do is to continue to have the public comment, let you also discuss, and whatever the council, the majority of the council feels which resolution should at least go forward, option 1 or option 2, at least for your consideration. Then we'll put that on the agenda for the next council meeting. If the council passes a resolution to go with option 2, which would be to not, or option 1, I think I have listed, it doesn't matter what number it is, but the one with the sharrows, right? It would not be a change of a public law, right? And so you wouldn't need any further approval by the common council. You normally wouldn't get approval. The council wouldn't normally consider this issue, right?
Yeah.
So, but if it was, if we did go with if the council chose to take option, for certain, we're calling it option 2, I'm sorry, but the bike lane option, which is the recommendation of the Board of Public Safety, then that would indeed change the parking law. And so therefore, it would come back to the council to approve that change in our code, just like it did, say, for when the Board of Public Safety recommended that we change the parking on Park and Elm there on that little section, right? It was deemed as a hazard. So the Board of Public Safety recommended that we do that because it was a law change, a code change. It came to the council for approval or denial. So it would come back if that was the solution. Fair enough? But tonight we shouldn't take a vote because I set it up incorrectly on this. So we shouldn't take a vote either way tonight. Certainly can have the public comment and close the public comment section as well. But the vote will wait until 2 weeks, and it's okay because the next step would be for this to go out to bid for whatever the council recommends, and that wouldn't be awarded and acted on until the spring anyway. So we're okay. There's no huge hurry. My faux pas won't affect that. So wanted you all to know that. Thank you, Ben. Any more public comment?
Charlotte Jennings, 28 Webster, and I live next to the group home. And if I listened carefully last time, people thought there were enough parking spaces for them to pull around the corner and use the lot on the side. But I watched this last week or two, not every day, but there are generally cars from what would that be known as? The west side of my house to their driveway. Every week there's lots of them. And so you need to go and consider that if you're going to make any changes that impact that. I mean, right now, when they bring residents, they pull around the side frequently, but when they have staff meetings, is my guess. I mean, I don't go over to check, but that's what I assume is going on. Those people all park in front, and that happens regularly every week, at least 3 and frequently more cars. So.
Mayor, I have 2 constituents who asked me to read their comments into the record because they couldn't be here, but if there's more.
Good afternoon, good evening. April McLean. I'm on the court, Webster Court, so I'm late to the party. I really didn't know. But it was mentioned, and I don't know how accurate this, that the suggestion was just park on the side streets. So I'm on Webster Court, and it's a very small, congested area, especially when the snow is all pushed down. We can't get emergency vehicles in now easily as it is. So if you put some cars in there, I'm not going to have a chance. So you have a fire hydrant at the end as well for water. So just wanted to throw that out there for thoughts. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi there, Kim Sabo, 73 Webster. I just wanted to mention, I was at the Planning Safety Board meeting, and I think you were there, and you mentioned that you'd made the resolution and it was passed. Had we known prior to that, and we had talked to the people at the Planning Board, it may not have gone in that direction. But prior to that, not one person on my street. Board of Public Safety, yeah. Had we known before, I think that vote may have gone differently, but not one person on our street knew about it then. So I just wanted to make note that that may have gone in a different direction had we known in advance.
Yes.
Okay.
Tim Reed, I live at 74 Webster, also own 78. I need some clarity from what just happened here.
Sure.
From what I gather, you said we could vote on Resolution 1, which was to do the sheriffs. but or we could vote on resolution 2, but we can't, because if we approve that, then it has to go a further step. I don't understand the difference.
Sorry, Tim, so we're not gonna vote no matter what tonight because of the way I put it under new business. I thought I was being effective in putting it at the end of the council meeting and letting the council open up for their comment so that they could talk about it. But when you put a resolution on a council meeting, it has to be a resolution, and then there has to be a motion from one of the council members to take that resolution up, and then second it, and then they vote, right? And because I put the two options there, it would be considered a floor vote. I didn't realize that, and so floor votes are very different. If any council member or myself was to bring a floor vote, which is, hey, I haven't given anybody notice, but I wanted to vote on the colors of Glens Falls being red and black to blue and green, right? So if I did that, that vote would require 100% approval to pass. And so that was not my option. I just didn't understand the procedural. It was the attorney that helped me to understand that I made a mistake. I shouldn't have done that. So we're just not going to vote tonight. We're going to have the public comment. We're going to talk about, let the council weigh in and share their questions or anything as far as that goes. And then whatever the majority of them say they'd like one of those resolutions on the agenda, we'll put it on the agenda, and then we can have a normal vote at the next council meeting.
Okay.
Fair enough?
So as a neighborhood member, I just reiterate, everybody is in line with not doing the bike lanes. And also, I'm thinking about the bike lanes, it's kind of nuts, I'm gonna say. You're getting people across Glen Street with the new timed lights. I think that's an awesome idea. Those lights are a little rough right now. You're giving them 2 bike lanes, one in either direction. You're promising them safe passage. When you have a bike lane, you're saying, we're taking care of you. You have safe passage. And then you go a block and you say, well, we're taking care of you, but we're not taking care of you because it's not wide enough. So we're dropping this bike lane. So now they're in traffic. You go another block, you're dropping them both. So the mother, the father, the kids, the things they pull behind them, safe passage on these bike lanes that started on Glen Street, narrowed down, dissipated a little, and then were gone by the time they get to my house, actually. And honestly, it wouldn't affect me because the bike lanes are gone by the time they get to me. But I don't think you can do that. I don't think you can give somebody, it'd be like having a passing lane on a highway, and all of a sudden, boom, it's gone.
Right.
And so, geez, I thought I was safe, but now I'm not safe. So anyway.
So is that a question, Tim? Because I could answer it if it was. Is that a
Well,
question?
if you want it to be a question, if you have an answer, sure.
Sure. Well, we hire an engineering company that explores the complete streets and the guidelines, and so that is exactly what is called for the width of those streets. That is one of the options.
I understand.
So it clearly is, and they clearly believe also that if you looked at the complete street guidelines or the PROAG regulations, it's also saying that it is safer for a bike, and this is about the principles of complete streets. And correct me if I say this wrong, Councilman Lappin, because I don't want to be an expert. I'm not the expert that the engineer firm is. But if I understand complete streets principles that are laid out, that it is actually saying that this is the safest way for you to offer with the widths of the streets, and as the widths change, that this is the safer aspect for those pedestrians.
They're giving 2 options. We're saying that we don't think that's the safe option.
I agree.
And they are engineers. I saw the presentation online of the planning board. I saw the presentation here. They did a great job. You asked for 2 options, they gave you 2. The entire neighborhood is saying one of them stinks.
Yes.
And not only does it stink from a safety standpoint, and last time I was here I said, we put our leaf debris in the street. Someone goes around it, they get hit by a car, I'm gonna get sued. I'm not interested in getting sued because somebody wants to go a block and a half in a bike lane. I'd rather you slow the speed down, and there are many ways to do that. Slow it way down, because we have people going 60 and 70 miles an hour on our street. And then share the road with everybody so that there's not an issue. And we have 2 possibilities here. All our group is saying is take the obvious one, the safe one, forget all the rigmarole, forget the half bike lane here, half bike lane there. And the engineers who you were citing, and I respect them, gave you two options. The option that the entire neighborhood is voting for is very clear. I see a push from a couple of board members, maybe I'm making it up, I don't think so, for the other option. So that's all I'm saying, and I don't want to get into it.
No, I just was trying to, when.
No, I can see
you
what
were
you're
saying
saying. No,
that-
it's a personal issue, and I can see. You're getting a little frisky, and I'm saying,
No,
we have,
no,
I'm
not
saying,
at all, I'm sorry.
I'm saying we have two options here. You have, well, they're not here tonight. You have the entire neighborhood here saying, we vote for this option, which is one of the recommended options,
Yes, it is.
not the option that, say, a bike fanatic might want, but it's what the entire neighborhood wants. And I guarantee if you take the parking away from that neighborhood, it's gonna be, well, I don't guarantee anything, it's gonna be a drag, and it's gonna be a bummer. And that's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Aileen Toomey. I live at 33 Webster. Lived there since 2020. And I just kind of wanted to reiterate Tim's point that, so I guess there's 2 points that I want to make. One point is the house value point. So when my husband and I bought this house, we were already concerned about the really narrow driveway. Like, it's a pain. It's probably the biggest headache that we have is the constant switching of the cars. And so if we knew at that point in time that, like, we also potentially wouldn't have any street parking, like, there's no way we would have bought this house. And so I'm really concerned about the house values going down. I think that's one point I want to make. And then the other point I want to make is also about safety and risk. So I work in occupational health and safety. I look at risk like all day long. And so I think to do like a really full risk assessment of both of these options, you need to look at, of course, the biker safety, but you need to look also at the big picture of like the cars, people walking, all that. And so the issues that I see with option 2, option 2, the bike lanes, is like, I see a couple issues. So like, one issue I see is we talk a lot about connecting Crandall Park with the Warren County bike path. And so if we go with option 2, what we're doing is bikers are going on a protected lane where they're moving both directions from Crandall Park. They're going to that same condition at the Warren County Bikeway. But in order to make that connection, they're going to opposite sides of the street for half of the length of the street. Then it ends. Are they expected to cross? Like, that's confusing, and confusion equals risk. Like, that is risky to bikers, especially if we're talking about children going from one to the other. So like, it's not a slam dunk. It's not a perfect solution for them, right? I think the other couple areas where I see risk are like, if everyone's now parking so much further away from their house, and they're moving stuff in and out of their cars so much further away from their house, and all their visitors are too, then you see just like a lot more risk for those pedestrians, especially in bad weather. And then I also was just looking into kind of that option for a bike lane. The thing is, like, in the winter, it wouldn't be super beneficial to bikers anyway, because that's where a lot of the snowpack ends up when people are clearing their driveways and when plows are going. And so then they're just forced into the traffic anyway in the winter, or they're not biking, right? And so I think when you look at like the overall benefits and costs to this, like, it's just not a good option. I thought really hard about this, and I thought, like, am I just being selfish at wanting parking? Like, and is that at the detriment to our overall community? And I just think, like, after really thinking about it for a few weeks, like, this just isn't a great option. And so I would love to see maybe you guys direct the engineers to look at another option, to look at splitting Fort Amherst and Webster, giving us some kind of compromise, but I would just urge you not to vote for option 2, because I don't think it's a slam dunk for all of the populations that are affected. So, thanks.
Thank you.
So I just want to read a couple.
Sure, please.
So I have one from Mr. Murphy, who lives at 49 Webster. He asks me to please read his remarks into the record because he's unable to attend. So he says, to reiterate my position that the Board of Public Safety never considered any of the issues or impacts that may arise with the implementation of bike lanes, there was was no discussion of the speed of the street, the narrowness of the 4 streets that enter Webster Avenue, the stop signs, or the possibility of increased liability when backing out of driveways. There was no mention of the state home on 24 Webster, corner of Webster Court and Webster. Their parking accommodates 1 transport vehicle and 3 cars in front of their 2-car garage. Additional staff and visitors park in the street on Webster Avenue. Any parking on Webster Court severely restricts emergency vehicle access and would make the fire hydrant at the end of Webster Court unusable. These are all possible problems which should have been considered before the board rubber stamped their approval of bike lanes. A Webster Ave resident brought up the point of only 1/2 of the street being wide enough for bike lanes, then reverting to a shared road, possibly causing confusion and safety issues on a fast street. Later in the meeting, Councilman Landry asked 2 questions. One to Mr. Gaddy, is there a plan for the city and the bike lanes? He answered no. He also asked Mayor Collins if the federal funding was contingent on the addition of bike lanes. The mayor answered no. With the funding not contingent on the bike lanes and no comprehensive plan for these lanes in our city, it appears it's causing a problem where there is none. It would be a shame to hold up the implementation of critical infrastructure improvements to a neighborhood to accommodate transient bike traffic. Respectfully, Ed Murphy. So that was one. And the other one is from Dawn Duvall. She says, after reading the article in this week's Chronicle, I would like to add another comment that I hope you can relay to the council members and the mayor. From the mayor's statement, this was initially requested to make it safer to cross Glen Street to Webster Ave and cross Bay Street to access Douglas to get to the Warren County Bike Trail. No designated bike path line down the road will make it any safer for bicyclists. Currently, bicyclists should be following the rules of the road and ride to the side of the road anyhow. Although kids do not follow the rules of the road and ride down the middle of the road, so having this bike path lane would not be used by them. Plus, since nothing will be done at the corner of Webster to cross Bay Street, it is still not safe for bicyclists or anyone walking to cross Bay Street. Seems to me a moot point in doing all this work for bike safety, not including the signal changes for Glen Street as that is needed, when the real hazard is speeding cars on Webster and no signal crossing Bay Street. It will be a real hardship for residents to not have access to park out front of their homes, as was stated by many. There are no other streets in Glens Falls besides the business district area that has a 2-hour limit or no parking on city streets, as the mayor stated. Only the no parking on city streets between the hours of 2 a.m. and 6 a.m., which has a sign on entering the city on Bay Street. Not sure on the other end of town signage. I'm hoping that residents of Webster Avenue will attend the Common Council vote meeting and emphasize the hardship both in lack of usage of the road out in front of their homes and the look of the neighborhood itself that the bike path lane will present to the community of Webster Avenue, once again to the council members and the mayor. Thank you. Dawn.
Thank you. We'll now close our public comment period, and we'll go to committee reports. Councilman Clark.
I have no report, but we will be starting our budget meetings on the 16th and going into the 17th, 18th, and 19th, and then on the 23rd. This will be our work for our budget for 2024. We'll be meeting with our department heads to talk about the proposed budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Lamb.
Thank you, Mayor. In your resolution packet is the resolution to approve the most recent agreed upon contract with our police department, PVA. This contract is favorable to both sides, increasing salaries that will assist in officer retention and recruitment. This contract reflects our efforts to get all of our unions on board in addressing legacy costs and other health insurance issues. It will be a heavy lift as we prepare our 2024 budgets and beyond, but will bring much stability to our entire police department. I'd like to thank Union President John Farini and his team for their cooperation during these negotiations.
Thank you. Committee report, Councilwoman Palmer.
The Building and Codes Committee met last week with our city attorney to go over the draft that we have of our noise ordinance. We think we have a draft that's about ready to put out for public comment. It's just a draft, and we'll see what the comment is. When I hear back from all the committee members, I'll forward it along to Chip for inclusion, hopefully on the next council agenda. We will be meeting again soon. We would like to address snow removal. There was a lot of talk about that last year and many years, and we are working on a plan to try to have a firmer enforcement of that. That's it.
Thank you. And then with the firmer enforcement, were you considering maybe having a contractor that we could sub it out to? Because
same thing we talked about last year. We're just trying to get it down and writing as the charter does, allow us to do that. So what that means is that if we have repeat offenders who repeatedly do not clean up their snow, we do have the ability to have DPW hire someone to come and clean it and then send a bill to that person. And that person has to pay the bill, and if they don't, then that can be added to their tax bill. And we would not be doing that for people who just one time are out of town, but if somebody repeatedly disregards the respect of their neighborhood and doesn't clean their streets, we have to be able to enforce the laws that we have. So that's something we're looking at.
great. Thank you. Councilman Latin, committee reports, please.
The Technology Committee met on October 4th. We talked about, excuse me, just had a burp there. We were talking about the C-Click Fix update, and we're still looking at a fall rollout for that. We talked about website accessibility and that we need to follow up with our vendor because we're due for a redesign, and the redesign would cover the accessibility issues. And it's already contracted in, so we're hoping that Chip and Megan may be able to look into that with them, and maybe we could schedule a call with them to see what they're thinking with the vendor. We also talked about roadmap for our IT provider, and we discussed how the city has access to SharePoint and OneDrive, and we're not taking advantage of it. And that Start Tech would be able to provide us with training to get up and moving with that. Those would really help us to collaborate better between different departments and the council. And the next meeting will be November 1st. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilwoman Good, committee reports.
No report this time.
Under the voice vote, Resolution 1 is a resolution to approve the minutes of the September 26, 2023 meeting of the Common Council. And Resolution 2 is to approve the clerk's September 2023 monthly PVP report as attached.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Abstain.
One abstention. Thank you. Under roll call vote, I have resolution number 3. I'd like to pull. The budget lines are incorrect, and so we need to pull that, and it'll be on the next common council meeting. And are there any other resolutions the council would like to pull for discussion? Not hearing any. Let's begin with roll call vote. Resolution 4 is to increase revenue line A 00999-A2702 PAL revenue by $2,187.94, and increase expense line A 243-4479 PAL program by $2,178.94. 5 is a resolution to approve City Glens Falls Community Development manual payments in the amount of $22,928.11. 6 is a resolution to authorize the Controller's Office to pay grant reimbursements through the Community Development Office and the Economic Development Office from the New York State Office of Community Renewal under the city's Small Business COVID Recovery Fund, including $30,000 to each the SBRF applicant Simon's Heating and Cooling, SBRF applicant 518 Beauty Room, and SBRF applicant Downtown Social as attached. 7 is a resolution to authorize the annual payments of $4,360.35 to support the purchases of fixtures, furniture, and equipment to the Golden Monkey Lounge, an emerging business at 58 South Street, using Community Development Block Grant funding from the 2019 and 20 CBG program years as targeted to economic development. 8 is a resolution to increase water revenue line F00999-2680 insurance recoveries by $4,765.90 and increase expense line F78320-4352 motor vehicle repair parts by $4,765.90 to ensure repairs sustained by water and sewer vehicles. 9 is a resolution to approve encroachment permit for Jerry Pareca, DBA Lorella's Restaurant, 21 Bay Street, Glens Falls, following an October 3rd advisory opinion from the Glens Falls Planning Board that the City Council should look favor upon the application for the placement of tables and chairs in front of the business for a period of June 1st, 2023 through May 31st, 2024, in compliance with PROAG regulations for public access on the sidewalk as described in the layout. 10 is a resolution to retroactively approve encroachment permit as approved by Mayor Collins on September 22nd, 2023 for the National Grid 1125 Broadway, Manans, New York 12204 to allow for street openings through Western Avenue between Sherman Avenue and Coolidge Avenue to replace gas main to do a system reinforcement project from September 25th, 2023 through November 20th, 2023, following the city standard requirements. Permit number 1-2023 is subject to the prevailing wage requirements of Article 8, New York State Labor Law, Section 224-F, Roadway Excavation Quality Assurance Act. 11 is a resolution to approve the forwarding of the Planning Board a request of zoning change for the vacant lot located at 4 Sherman Avenue, Glens Falls, New York, from 12801 for R-M to CG-1 as attached. Resolution 12 is to decrease A56989-4479 other contracted services by $6,600 from the city's economic development budget to cover certain engineering and design costs incurred by CT Mal Associates associated with the preferred seating solution for the Eastfield Baseball Stadium grandstands in the amount not to exceed $6,600. 13 is a resolution approving a 4-year memorandum of agreement between the Police Benevolent Association, PBA, and the City of Glens Falls for the term of January 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2027, with terms outlined. 14 is a resolution to increase general fund expense account A11490-4352, DPW motor vehicle repairs by $3,000, and decrease the general fund expense account A45410-4364, cement and cement service by $3,000. The DPW has incurred major vehicle equipment repairs this year and therefore needs to move the funds from one account to another or to cover such expenses. 15 is a resolution to approve encroachment permit number 4-2023 with a favorable advisory opinion of the Planning Board on October 3rd, 2023 for Gabriel Matthias, owner of tax map number 309.27-6-23, commonly known as 20 Crandall Street, seeking a curb cut at a driveway for a driveway at this location, is presented by the Planning Board on October 3rd, 2023, subject to the following condition. The apron between the sidewalk and the street edge be of concrete in compliance with the city's code. 16 is a resolution to retroactively approve encroachment permit number 2023-2 as approved by Mayor William Collins on September 22nd, 2023 for Verizon Wireless 36 British American Boulevard, Latham, New York, to replace 2 existing RRH units and install equipment cabinet on the existing utility pole number NM11 and V27 in front of 25 South Street, Glens Falls, from September 22nd, 2023 through the completion of the project. 17 is a resolution to retroactively improve encroachment permit number 2023-3 is approved by Mayor Collins on September 22nd, 2023 for Verizon Wireless 36 British American Boulevard, Latham, New York, to replace one existing RRH unit on existing utility pole NM5 NYT5 in front of 12 Clayton Avenue from Glens Falls, Clayton Avenue, Glens Falls, from September 22nd through the completion of the project. 18, in regard to section 2.2.2 city charter, a resolution is put forward to approve the drafted plan that Councilman at Large, the President of the Common Council, has to meet the request of the council members. That when the mayor and the council at large are unavailable, absent from the city, or otherwise unavailable to perform their duties, following the line of succession will be in effect. If at that time any council member cannot fulfill his role, this responsibility will fall to the next council member in the line of succession as stated. And that detailed succession plan will last from January 1st, last until January 1st, 2026, or until such a time that a common council is sworn, a new common council is sworn into office. 19 is a resolution, Common Council of the City of Glens Falls hereby amends resolution number 305, approves the settlement of 2022 real property tax law, Article 7, proceeding entitled Eric Unkoff as contract vendee with James Del Signor and James Masson, the assessor of the City of Glens Falls, Board of Assessment Review of the City of Glens Falls, New York. Number 20 is a resolution to approve the warrant. Do we have a motion for roll call vote?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilman at Large Clark.
Yes.
Councilman Landry.
Yes.
Councilman Palmer.
Yes.
Councilman Adam.
Abstain.
And Councilman Wood.
Yes.
Thank you. And so, let's see, under new business, old business, Councilman Clark.
Well, I guess I'll get the ball rolling. I appreciate members of Webster Avenue sticking around to the end of the meeting to hear our comments. One of the difficult things as an elected official is balancing the needs of the greater community as the needs of a smaller segment of the community. And that's a challenge sometimes. What's the greater good is a question we have to ask, and is this the greater good? This decision that we will make down the road is not just a decision for Webster Avenue, it's a decision for the whole entire city of Glens Falls. Because Webster Avenue is a pretty large street. So if we decide to not do bike lanes on Webster Avenue, we pretty much have decided that we won't consider doing bike lanes on pretty much any other neighborhood street. So the decision that we're going to make not just only impacts Webster, but will impact the entire city of Glens Falls. So we need to understand that. And I appreciate everyone's comments. I think it's important that we hear what they have to say and certainly weigh those into the decision-making process. But this is just not about Webster, it's about the entire city, because we could have this discussion for Lincoln, we could have this discussion for Horicon, we could have this discussion for any one of our neighborhood streets, and the same thing is going to be said. And so what we determine here tonight, or down the road, will impact the rest of the community. So people need to understand that. So again, thank you all for coming, thank you all for staying, we really appreciate that.
Thank you. Old business, Councilman Landry.
Yes, before I report on something else, I was elected to represent the will of the people in the second ward and throughout the city, within the laws that guide this body. And you've spoken, and I applaud you for the efforts that you put into this, getting us the signatures, telling the stories. If you don't live in that neighborhood, you don't know the stories. And I would support not putting bike lanes on Webster Avenue. I'd also like to just make a quick note here. A coalition of Glens Falls residents met this afternoon to continue our efforts to hopefully develop our properties at the former Glens Falls Swim and Tennis Club. This workshop was very productive, and I think we're moving forward in a positive direction. So I'll continue to report on this. I'm very anxious to see us expand our park offerings in the city. There's a lot of work to be done to get grants and stuff to do this work. We can't put this on the backs of city taxpayers. But I think it's a good effort, and I think the people of this citizen group realize that and will move forward. Thank you.
Councilwoman Palmer, old business.
Well, to comment on the bike lanes, I guess I want to reiterate a couple of the things I said last week. One is that although the bike lanes are the kind of hotly debated part of this project, the majority of this project is really important and good for the neighborhood. It's the safety of the traffic signal. Not only will it be timed, it'll have a little lead time for pedestrians so that they can walk before the light changes, and also the water infrastructure that will change to stop the flooding. I mean, these are all really positive changes. I think it's important that I understand what Councilman at Large Clark is saying, that these decisions affect the whole city. But I do think it's important that when we're going to make these kinds of big changes that will affect a neighborhood, that we do engage them earlier in the process, because then the Board of Public Safety may have had the benefit of all of these people's comments. So I think that's really important. I will definitely support the option with the Sharrows. I think that the entire neighborhood is here and has told us what they think, and I think we are elected to represent our constituents.
I just wanted to make one particular, I've got something to read here, but we recently did bike infrastructure on Murray Street, which is another wide street, that also went from dedicated bike lanes across Hudson, and then down the hill it turns into Sharrows, and then in front of the park it loses any infrastructure at all. So this is not something that's terribly unusual, that there's some infrastructure where it's really wide, and then as it gets smaller, the infrastructure changes, and then maybe disappears altogether. I had some thoughts also about this project that I just wanted to share. On July 18th, 2019, Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, known as the Climate Act, was signed into law in New York State. The law requires New York to reduce economy-wide greenhouse gas emissions 40% by 2030, which is 7 years away, and no less than 85% by 2050 from 1990 levels. This means we need to prioritize non-carbon intensive transportation whether it is public transit, pedestrian facilities, or bicycle facilities. To that end, the Common Council passed a complete streets policy this spring to fulfill a contract it had made with the city in 2013. Complete Streets, Safe Routes to School, and Safe Routes for All are federal programs that provide state and municipal funding that connects schools and areas of public interest such as parks, libraries, churches, grocery stores, active transportation infrastructure, and other areas of community interest. Active transportation, such as walking, biking, and micromobility like skateboarding or scooters, has many positive health outcomes. There is a public health epidemic related to heart disease, diabetes, obesity, and more that can be significantly reduced by greater adoption of active transportation. Last meeting, many Webster Avenue residents, in this meeting too, spoke to their safety concerns with regard to adding bike lanes on a street where they consider many people to be racing down the street at speeds exceeding the speed limit. Adding the bike lanes has been shown to reduce average traffic speeds by reducing the widths of the automotive lanes. Additionally, I shared with the council and the mayor fact sheets from the New York State Department of Transportation, Federal Department of Transportation, and from an advocacy group showing that bike lanes are actually traffic calming features. Another chief issue in the eyes of residents on Webster and sympathize with others in the city is the removal of parking on both sides of the road on the west end. Webster Avenue is a very wide road in the western section, but can the road be expanded in the eastern section? What width would we need to have to retain parking and have bike lanes? And what width would we need to have parking on one side of the street and bike lanes, or parking on one side of the street and one bike lane going in one direction? And maybe then we can hope that Queensbury do something with their roads that run parallel. I understand the Board of Public Safety approved the plan with the bike lanes. Where does the city stand right now in terms of a comprehensive bike plan going forward? We're looking with Bike Glens Falls to
And AGFT.
and AGFT.
Yeah, to begin to take the old bike plan that was created by AGFT and take the new partial completed plan that identified highlights, streets that they would recommend that we put bike lanes on, and ask the two of them to work together to come up with one plan. I shared with them the city's desire to create the most safest, most pedestrian and cyclist options for their recommendation to the council. So that's what they are going to work on that.
And do we have a date for the Complete Streets Advisory Board being assembled?
Yeah, so I just sent some information to a member that just wanted a little bit more information on what the task would be in hand, so he can make a decision whether or not he wants to participate. And we have everyone's else has got somebody, so hopefully he'll get back to me and Mary, and we can assemble that group together and start, because I know the first thing they need to do was to look at the checklist for the state checklist to see if it needs to be amended to accommodate our the local needs here, and that would be their first charge. So so we're almost there. So hopefully we can have that wrapped up before the end of the year. I would say that.
Old business, Councilwoman Good.
Well, I'd just like to start off with, when I became an elected official, I didn't realize all that really went into it. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you.
Sorry.
And after yeah. But I mean, it's something that I really take seriously, and you know, it's a great honor for me to sit here. And as I sit here and I listen to everyone, and I've learned a lot since I've been on this council, but I've been on many other boards, and I still am. So I understand how government works. The Board of Public Safety, we have put them in the position to bring back to the council the best of what they have to follow guidelines also. We have to follow guidelines also. It's not an easy job. As we were doing the complete streets, and they have done a lot of work on complete streets. Ben has put a lot of work into it. I applaud him. He really, when he gets into something, he does it well. And he did a great job. And it's something that for us to listen to, and we're listening to you too. So it brings us to what is best for the city and what is best for everyone. And we have guidelines we have to follow also. So we're doing the best that we can for the guidelines. But I would like to ask though, the Board of Public Safety they have guidelines they have to follow for this, correct?
Yes.
So if the people went back to the Board of Public Safety, they still would have to follow the guidelines, right?
Yeah,
Right, okay.
Yep.
So I'm just wondering,
but both of those plans, Mary, are within the guidelines, they're options. And that engineer made both plans that way on purpose. So both, no matter what we choose, they both would meet the federal guidelines that would determine the funding for this, right? And so we're safe in both ways. It's just one focused more on pedestrian safety, and it is, they followed the recommendations of the Complete Streets guidance that was given to them, and they were following, they had just ruled on, it had just been reviewed the Maple Street project, which was too narrow for any bike lanes, and matter of fact, ended up, they made the decision, they chose the option that eliminated 75 parking spaces on one side of Maple Street to move the actual traffic lane to the left of the street, and then kept the parking on the right side. And so what they need to do is consider the widths of the streets and what those options are. And so they did that, and we have that choice. But they certainly would have listened to public concern. But it's kind of like the example of the planning board, right? The planning board reviews a proposal for a building lot. There's a particular one going in front of the planning board just recently where somebody wants to subdivide their property. And the neighbors can weigh in and say, geez, I wish they wouldn't, it's been an open lot forever. And we had it for many of our projects, right? And so the planning board, though, is limited in what they certainly listen to that and take it into perspective, but they also, there's only certain things they can deny that particular plan for, and so they would take the public comment into process, but if it doesn't ask for a setback, a break of a setback in those guidelines, they pretty much would make a recommendation, and the council would almost always follow. The same could be true here, it's not necessarily, but they did look at, they asked the questions about the pedestrian safety, they asked about the options, would they both meet the guidelines, and they do. So we're not in any jeopardy at all if the council does accept that. But it is uncommon that the Board of Public Safety's recommendations aren't taken, and they are aware of our efforts towards complete streets, and the engineer made it very clear that both were, had more of a pedestrian focus.
yeah, and my other concern is Crandall Park is across the street. And I understand that, it's Webster Avenue, and I hear you, but we have to look out for everyone, our children too. I mean, you're saying they're riding in the middle of the street, and it's been proven that if you have a bike lane, it does slow down the traffic. So I'm just thinking about the children, slowing down the traffic. It's a lot to think about, but in the end, it's really what's best for the city. Thank you.
Thank you. So, under old business, I wanted to review the comments that I had and try not to weigh on, and so that you could consider. Of course, when I wrote these, I thought we were going to make a vote tonight, but I don't know if this has much value. But we definitely had a resident that was pleased with the repaving plan, but and that the roads did need to be done. But there were several concerns regarding the elimination of the on-street parking in front of residents' homes. And the current parking is 2 hours parking on all of our neighborhood streets where the code isn't amended, right? We have some more restrictive. Concern was noted that with private events at homes, that their on-street parking would be eliminated. It's concerned about the residents faced with real hardship of not having access to park out in front of their homes. Concerns about the public events at City Park would be eliminated, that parking wouldn't be an option. And then concerns noted that there would be no place to leave their lawn trimmings and brush cutting, as well as leaf and lawn bags. One resident questioned why the bike lanes were not considered for Garrison or Fort Amherst instead of Webster Avenue. Residents also spoke at the Board of Public Safety meeting and the Common Council meeting, preferring shared lanes. That was the #1 theme in this, and that bikes and cars do coexist on Webster now, and that they don't believe that there's a problem. At one point, it was noted that they didn't see any problems with the bike traffic as Webster as it is. Another commenter said that they needed, they don't believe there was a need to replace sidewalks or install sidewalks where there aren't any currently, and also to change the sidewalks when they're replaced. And concern was noted about the removing of the trees and replacing them with new trees and sidewalks and curbs. Some residents believe there was no designated bike path down the lane of the road may actually be safer for bicyclists than the mix of bike lanes and sharrows. And current bicyclists should be following the rules, but don't, and so therefore they wouldn't follow the rules if bike lanes were created, and therefore they should not be implemented. And then some stated that because our plan doesn't address the corner of Webster to Cross Bay, that it's still not safe for bicyclists. So why address it with bike lanes where we can? And then some stated that the real hazards are speeding cars on Webster and no cross signal across Bay Street. And then finally, some residents said that they insisted that the speed on the traffic on Webster, adding more speed limit signs and traffic calming devices should be added, not bike lanes. And wanted you all to know that on tomorrow's Board of Public Safety meeting, the concerns of Webster Avenue and the need for traffic calming devices is on their agenda to look at, and they will use the traffic control device manual to examine Webster and what would be allowable and what is not allowable as traffic calming devices for Webster. But wanted you all to know that has been added to it, and it's regardless of whether bike lanes are added or not. We need to hear the concern of Webster Avenue and address that. And then, so you all are aware of the process when we are reviewing major road reconditioning, including sidewalks and curb replacements, repaving projects, all of our major projects involving our right-of-way. The process is that the city has been to determine the general needs of the road and the underlying infrastructure with our city engineer. We hire civil planning engineers like Creighton and Mann. They examine the road width and other physical attributes with the roadway using the public right-of-way access guidelines and the complete street guidelines to develop a set of options for the city to consider. Then those proposals go before the city's Board of Public Safety, which is tasked with in our charter with the full jurisdiction over traffic control and ensuring our public safety concerns in the city of Glens Falls. The public is notified about the project at that time and can comment in front of the Board of Public Safety. And there was a mention here that they felt that if they had brought those concerns in full force, that the Board of Public Safety may have changed their recommendation. In this case, the engineers proposed 2 alternatives which both meet those guidelines. And so I think that normally these projects are not brought before the Common Council because there is not a recommendation of a change in the law that the council would consider. However, the residents asked the Common Council to weigh in, and therefore it's now in front of you to decide whether you wish to accept the recommendations of the Board of Public Safety or pick the other option that was presented by Creighton and Manning. Both would meet the needs and suffice the public, the funding proposals. We did not, there are many things we did not consider, like this is about Webster Avenue and the repaving and the relining of Webster Avenue. It is not about Fort Amherst or, I'm sorry, I forgot the other name of the street, Garrison, right? It doesn't mean that those wouldn't be, especially as we move forward with other streets, we certainly would look at them. And we did not look at, because of the cost of this program, we did not look and ask Creighton and Manning to explore widening the streets. That certainly could have been within their purview, but this project has grown over the years, and we're very lucky to have the Adirondack Glens Falls Transit Corporation put this on the tip and to move this forward. But if we think there are concerns about the elimination of parking on a street, I couldn't imagine the potential of eliminating public or private property to widen the street, right? And finally, and I hope that you all understand that I'm happy to have this brought in front of you for your vote, although it's not common practice. There is things for you to consider, and that is that the width of Webster is one of our wider streets, and if you and your Board of Public Safety is looking at that, and you're about to add another board, which would be the Complete Streets Advisory Committee, that would be looking at widths of streets and what the Complete Streets policies would recommend, and the efforts to examine the safety, the public, the walking and the bicycling safety of the city. If you go down this path, I fully support it. I want to make no recommendations either way. But you should at least recognize that we're setting a precedent here, that you would be taking public comment and about the preferences of residents to keep their parking, as opposed to selecting a public safety recommendation from your Board of Public Safety. And I'm okay with whatever way you do, but and I mentioned this to the folks from the Glens Falls biking group, right? If you set that precedent, then when you look at the other streets that would be on that thing, so if you're going to have the AGFTC's bike path suggestions and the Glens Falls bike group's suggestions, and you now have a plan. And I'll give an example of the 2 that I mentioned the other day, and that I mentioned in my meeting with them. One suggestion was Bay Street, to have traffic, because Bay, if you were to examine the bike lanes on Bay Street, and put them on both sides, which it would be wide enough at first glance of Bay. If you did that, that would be eliminating the parking on both sides of Bay, which could greatly restrict your business, your economic development of those businesses. So the next thought was, when they were talking about it, that maybe you do one way into Glens Falls down Bay and one way out of Glens Falls on Glen, and that you eliminate the parking on half, and that you consider bike lanes on one half, which seemed like a novel idea to me, and it's something that they should consider and make recommendations for you to consider. The thing is that if you asked any of the residents or businesses on Bay or Glen and suggested that you might be taking their parking away and adding a bike lane, that I don't think you'd get many, certainly not a majority, to vote that you would do it. So as a result, you realize that you're setting up something that's going to almost eliminate the addition of bike lanes into Glens Falls by that process. Now, I'm not trying to say that I got a dog in this fight, but we have been working a long time at looking at complete streets, and this is a discussion. But it's just like when I was speaking to Mark Frost the other day in front of City Hall, and he asked me about public right-of-way. And I said, Mark, there's no sidewalks in front of your home. And he said, yes. And I said, would you ever vote to have a sidewalk put in front of your home? He said, no, I don't think it's needed. And I said, well, what if there were concerns out in front of kids walking to school? We're a walking distance. We talk about that. That's one of the things that we've had this group week hoping that they would start to look at. If you put that to a vote, let's say you decided that there was a large amount of dangerous activity on any street in Glens Falls that didn't have a thing. We have streets that don't have sidewalks right next to the high school. And so should we look at that? If you put that to a vote to the people who don't currently have sidewalks, like we did to the people on Grave Street a number of years ago when I was first on the Common Council, they were upset. Now, I'd say less than 5% of the people asked about this and considering putting sidewalks in would vote for it. I don't believe you'd ever have another sidewalk put in Glens Falls, because people won't want to give up their grass and then maintain, because you're not only just saying you're going to give up your grass in front of your house, but we're going to make you maintain the sidewalk, clear the sidewalk. We're going to plant a tree that you don't really have a decision about, and then you would be forced to, we'll only cut the tree down when we know that it's dead and dying. We don't take down a tree that might be putting sap on the front of your car, right? I mean, I just want you to see the implications of it. And so I didn't mean to make your decision any harder. I just wanted you to see the full effects of what it could have, and that was it. And
Are we allowed any more comment, or are we going to?
no, we closed the public comment period.
Because this is exactly how you ended the public safety meeting.
Well, there's a public comment after we're done with our new agenda.
Sure.
So you can wait until after we're done having our discussion, and then you can comment.
So know that those are the issues on the table for you. Would you like to, by a show of hands, would somebody like to make a recommendation for one of those to go on to the next council meeting? Or do you want to discuss it and decide later? What I should do is whatever it is you want as a resolution, we put it on the agenda, and that way it won't be coming off the floor. And that was the screw up that I made in the last one.
So I think the comment is that, whatever decision is made, another council could say we go with Cheryl's on Webster.
Mhm.
Another council could come in and say, we're putting bike lanes in down the road.
Sure.
So, it's not an end-all, be-all thing. Once the potential bike plan is done and things like that, it gets dissected, and, hopefully the public will weigh in the neighborhoods and things like that. Then we have something we can really sink our teeth into, because we've got public, hopefully, buy-in and in bike routes in potential neighborhoods. So I think, we need to look at that as it's not an end-all be-all thing here. We're not, it's not in perpetuity. If we decided to go with bike lanes, the next council or future council could decide to go with Cheryl's. I want that out there. I'll be honest with you, I don't want to waste people's time on this council. I don't want to waste Karen's time, and with all due respect, I respect every single one of the members of the Board of Public Safety. A lot of them are good, close friends of mine, and I appreciate the effort that they do. I put a lot of stuff in front of them all the time, asking them for things. I know a lot of us do, and they weigh it, away the public good. And they're volunteers, they don't get paid, and I appreciate that, and everyone should have an opportunity to sit on a board or commission, because it's a wonderful thing to do for a community. And with all due respect, and I appreciate them weighing in, and it's not unprecedented that we have, previous councils, this council, or I don't think we have yet, but previous councils have disregarded recommendations from boards and commissions. It's not unprecedented. So I don't want to waste people's time. I'm going to tell you right now that I think if the Board of Public Safety and I would not be supportive of Sharrows without traffic calming devices. We have to have traffic calming devices. If we're doing Sharrows, we have to have traffic calming devices on these streets. I think it's critical that we do that, and I hope the Board of Public Safety does that. And I would even say if we do a resolution, we should put that in there if we go with Sharrows. But I don't want to waste the time of putting a local law together, taking parking lot, because I am not supportive of putting bike lanes in there. I would much rather do Sharrows that meets the federal guidelines with traffic calming devices. That's my opinion, and there's three of us here, I know, but that have said that. I'm not sure what the rest of them, but I just don't want to go through this process and to keep dragging it out and having conversations outside the public, trying to determine what we're going to put on the agenda, because I think that's not
So
fair.
would you like to, or would Councilwoman Palmer like to make a recommendation of one of those resolutions to be on the next council meeting?
I don't think that we need to.
No.
I think that we can have this conversation and then we can, isn't that what you're saying?
Right, yeah, I don't want, but here's the thing is, I don't want us to have I think we all know where we stand and we feel on this. I don't, we've heard everything, we've heard the recommendations. I just don't want us to go through the process of creating a local law that we're not gonna pass, because I just want us to put something on the agenda for the next council meeting, utilizing Sharrows on Webster Avenue with traffic calming devices implemented with those Sharrows.
I find it irregular that we're talking about what we're gonna put on next agenda. We don't typically do that. We
Well,
just say we're gonna,
Well, all right,
The mayor
I'll
sets the
tell you what,
agenda.
I'll send
I'm
it tomorrow then.
The mayor sets the agenda for the common council meeting. There's two recommendations and, for us to consider. I just which one, it sounds to me like at least three of you are clear about what you'd like. And so how about this? I will put on the council agenda.
Put them both on there, and then we'll take a vote.
Oh, is that what you're suggesting? Okay,
Yeah, put 'em both on.
so put them both on and then we'll,
Yeah,
all right.
put them both on. and we'll
There
take
we
a
go.
vote.
Awesome. And thank you. Thank you. All right.
I do think it's important to note, as you said, that both of these options work with complete streets.
Absolutely.
And the federal guidelines that we have to follow to get this funding. So it's not that we're not doing anything positive towards complete streets if we choose Sharrows. I think that's important to note. I like your suggestion of making sure that if we go that route, we have traffic calming devices, and it's great that it's on the agenda for the Board of Public Safety.
Sure. I can let you know what the findings are of the Board of Public Safety at the next meeting. So the thing
that's
is
critical.
that I don't know if they're gonna be able to make a decision, because they have to look at, there's strict guidelines that they follow.
and
But they
would
will
that
follow.
be from the Board of Public Safety, that they would be giving us some input into what way we're gonna go with that, versus saying we're making a decision right now how we're setting an agenda for 2 weeks from now?
I don't think so. But I don't know, and so let me,
they're
if we're gonna put them both on, I'm fine with that. We'll put them both on, and then we'll let you guys vote. That's great. What I can do is tell you that they're looking at it and they'll start to address it. But I also know that's not a very simple thing, because I didn't know, I'm learning all the time. I'm learning that you can't just put a stop sign in the middle of the street to slow traffic down. It's illegal. It's not in the uniform traffic code. But there are other things you can do, other traffic control devices, like the one we're implementing on Monument where we cross Cranberry, right? So there are. So I can guarantee you that they're going to address this, but I can't tell you what that is, and I don't know that we'll have a decision. But either way, whether you had sharrows or bike lanes, I believe that there is a concern about the traffic speed going from one end of Webster down to the other. So I don't think it matters in that way. I think you can implement some traffic control devices regardless, even though I agree with Councilman Lapham's point that putting in bike lanes is an actual traffic controlling tool that is considered. But it doesn't mean the only one, right? It is one though, right? And there are studies that show that narrowing roads, putting in bike lanes are ways of slowing traffic down.
Creating bump outs, putting
Right, all sorts of
speed bumps, things like
Absolutely.
that.
We're good.
And conversely, the representative from Bike Glens Falls said that traffic calming can make biking safer, right?
Yeah,
So-
it would also, yes,
So I think
absolutely.
we can still make it safer to bike without putting the bike lanes in if we do traffic calming and sheriff.
Yes, you do, you could do both.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so we're good. Let's see, is there any new business? Councilman Clark?
No, but Mayor, I just want to thank you for bringing this to us and engaging us in this process. I think this is important, and when you're talking about a character of the neighborhood. So I do have no new business, but I want to thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Landry?
Thank you, Mayor. Quickly, I'd like to welcome 23 new residents to the city of Glens Falls, the 3rd Ward. Recently, 23 painted turtles had to now reside in Ranger Pond. I'd like to thank our DPW crews. I think they're represented here tonight by an individual who works for them, who went above and beyond the call of duty to protect those turtles where they laid their eggs and to make sure they had safe passage to the pond. So, welcome. I'd also like to congratulate Larry Bowman of South Glens Falls for his appointment by President Biden as union representative at the Department of Labor. That's pretty high up for somebody from our area to place. Larry has long been a tremendous advocate and supporter of our city and has been involved through Senator Gillibrand's office in many federal funding programs the city has received. So I congratulate Larry for that. Lastly, all of our employees are the face of the city every single day. Recently I was in downtown Glens Falls about 6 o'clock at night, and I came out on Lapham Place to Glen Street to a group of Glens Falls City police officers and Glens Falls City firefighters. And the first thing I thought of was something happened in the neighborhood, so I walked over and I said, "What's going on?" And they just said, "Well, we thought it was a good idea to take our dinner break here downtown, support some of the local businesses that support us, and just greet people on the street, let them see who we are and what we do every single day." So thank you to the Glens Falls Police Department and Fire Department for doing that. That's all.
Thank you. New business, Councilwoman Palmer?
Some people may have noticed that we made a ton of progress on our parks, and the pickleball nets went up at Murray Street. There have been people out playing on the basketball courts. It's just been great for the community. Also, I think I've said this before, but I attended opening night of the Glens Falls Symphony this last weekend. I don't know if everybody knows that we are the smallest city in the country to have its own professional symphony. That's really cool. I mean, we are really lucky in Glens Falls to have so much art and culture and sports and all of these things to offer. So wanted to give a shout out to that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilman Lett?
So Ed's not here, but the East Bend Action Committee met on October 6th, and we're just looking for a follow-up on 26 Leonard, which has been a problem property they were asking for a status on that. I think there was a public nuisance abatement strategy going on for it, but they were looking for an update, so you can update Ed, I guess. Also, there was the issue of follow-up on the flashing beacon at Abe Wing. So you had said, I believe, that you talked to the principal, but that wasn't something he was interested in.
Yeah, not the principal, I think it was the superintendent, that our DPW superintendent called the DPW, or the superintendent of schools. He had no such request.
I heard from one of the people on the Board of Education over there that they thought that was, didn't sound likely, that they were looking for something. They were looking for a crossing guard, and the crossing guard, I think that it's hard for us to hire crossing guards for everywhere where we might like to have somebody. And that flashing beacon would be something that we could get that would be a virtual no cost to the city, because we could get that from the grant from Glens Falls Hospital. So I'm gonna ask you to follow up with the principal over there, because that was who we had the meeting with last year, September 22nd of 2022.
I'll have our DPW superintendent call the principal.
Okay, and also a follow-up thing on the dumping regulations that are in the code. We had another comment of somebody saying that they were catching somebody dumping trash onto their property, and the police who responded said that we don't have a dumping regulation. So could we get that pushed out to the rank and file?
Yeah, I already spoke to Chief Smith. He's going to respond.
I sent something to Chief Smith. He didn't respond.
He will. He will. And it's already been, the concern that was there was already addressed. The police visited the people who dumped the cardboard on, and they had that cleaned up. And the current law that we have that has to do with dumping on property has no stipulation about those things. The law that has to do with finding people has to do with our parking and our ticketing and our traffic. So it's not, look, I'm telling you that the.
Karen, can you please follow that up for me?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay, and anything else?
No.
Thank you. Councilwoman Gooden.
I'm surprised Councilman Lane didn't talk about this, but it's open pickup. And it's very, the rules of the open pickup are very laid out in our website. And I know we've had before how we've had, you can put out on the street, your washing machines and all that stuff. Well, it's not like that. It's just for debris, your trees, and if you have your lawn, it still has to go in the bags. So we just want you to just know that it is open pickup. It is till November something, but third, second, or something.
Or the first.
Or the first snow.
Or the first one. So I just want to remind everyone of that. And I'd also like to thank the committee that worked on the Glens Falls Police Department contract. We worked very hard on it, and we're proud of our police department and our fire department and all of our departments. And we as a city are trying to get our, to show the value to our police in all of our departments. So we're working hard financially to get them up to par, and we just want to thank them for all the work that they do, because we're not a big department, but we have hard-working departments, and I know this council wants to thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
It was November 17th.
Thank you.
Great.
And Judy Villa White, I do not want to forget her for the Glens Falls Police contract.
Great work. Thank So now we're done with new business and we go to public comment. And so we open the floor to public comment.
My name is Kate Roos, and I do not live on Webster Avenue. But I want to say something about the leadership I've seen in the room this evening. For all of the amazing residents of Webster Avenue who have come, they are articulate, informed, passionate about what matters to them. I thank them all for being here. You may or may not agree with everything they said. I want to thank you for listening. That shows leadership of a very special kind, and I appreciate the attention you give and the detailed attention you give to comments. But I want to ask something else of you this evening. In April 2022, you unanimously passed a reconciliation document urging people to believe in and foster peace and reconciliation in the community. And you may have thought at the time, well, that's a nice thing to do. Everyone would agree with that. No, they don't. Not everyone does agree with peace and reconciliation. This community has a conservative and a reformed temple, many churches. Muslims live here. I've tutored one in learning English. We have a very diverse community of faith. We have people who love one another and are compassionate. And in our world today, we see a level of terror that we have not seen in our lifetimes. It is affecting people in the Middle East. I have a friend there right now. Everyone is concerned about her, but everyone is concerned about all of the people who are being slaughtered, held hostage, and frightened. You showed an interesting and amazing kind of leadership when you passed that nice resolution of peace and reconciliation. You thought it was easy to do. It's not easy. I'm asking you to publicly state your belief and commitment to peace and reconciliation for people of all faith communities again this evening, and I hope you will do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Kate, can you send me the copy of last year's resolution, or if you got one for me? I saw the email. You sent the email yesterday or today?
I did. Mm-hmm.
Great.
Here, I'll pass this around to you, and I'll get it to you.
Thank you. Thanks. Any other public comment? Not hearing any. I believe we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor? Thank you all. We stand adjourned.